Hello, my dear friends. Let's talk about 3 ways to double revenue in the next 6 months. Nothing I'm going to share with you is very fancy. It's not very shiny object. It's not very sexy. It is more about sustainable maintenance. It's more about growth that's realistic. And it's more about taking what you already have in your business and improving it. So this is not meant to be a shiny object episode. In fact, there's a thing that often trips entrepreneurs up. When you are starting out in your entrepreneurial career, you have to create something. You have to make an offer, then you have to figure out how the heck to sell that offer. That is actually a good time for shiny object syndrome because you're in a testing phase. So if you just keep doing the same thing over and over and over again and it's not working, well, then that's not very smart, right? However, if you're willing to adjust and make changes and try something else and try this and try that, that's a great attitude. It's a great mentality for getting your business off the ground. However, once you figure out how to make a transaction occur, once you figure out how to make something for someone, for them to buy it, to pay you for it, and then for you to be able to fulfill on it, you have to shift your mindset, your operating procedures, the way you think, what you prioritize, and you have to shift into management mode. Management mode is very different than testing mode. And when you have figured out that initial transaction and you're trying to grow your financials, which is what we're talking about, your revenue, profits, etc. When you're trying to grow your financials, it's more about shifting to a mentality of what can I improve? What can I make more efficient? And then asking yourself, what is our area of deficiency? And do we need to either build something to fix that area of deficiency? Do we need to stop doing something because we need to fix that area of deficiency? Or do we just simply need to improve the existing thing to make up for that deficiency, okay? So that's a great way to think about business. And the 3 things we're going to talk about today are really, that's what we're talking about. These are management strategies that you can use to double your revenue on existing offers that are currently working. The worst thing you can do is shut stuff off that's working in business because you did the hard part. The hard part is that initial shiny object testing phase. That's the hard part of entrepreneurship. Getting that going, if you know how to sell something to someone, I promise you, there are more of those someones in the world than you'll ever be able to sell to. So that's why the shift is important, because now you've figured out that secret combination. Let's try to get that in front of as many people as possible. Okay, so thing number 1 that we're going to do is we're going to make a really critical shift in our mental focus and prioritization. You're a business owner, you have 50 things going on at once. Fulfillment, financials, team, customer complaints, etc., etc. What I want you to do is every morning and every night when you sign off, ask yourself this very simple question. How many new leads did I bring into my business? And how can I get more tomorrow? Now, it seems so simple. It seems maybe too simple. It seems too elementary, but I would ask you, is that currently your number 1 priority in your business? My guess is it's not. It might be, your number 1 priority might be that client who keeps chatting in your ear. It might be some bill that you have to pay. It might be a new marketing thing you're trying to figure out. But I would ask, go back to every single morning and every single night, how many leads did I bring in today? And what am I going to do tomorrow to get more? And this very simple and subtle shift will realign your business for revenue growth. Why? Well, if you're currently making sales on something, you're getting leads, okay? Somehow. Now, it may not be apparent to you, right? And this is why prioritizing the focus of like really looking at your leads is figuring out what actually is a lead in your business. For example, if you're using LinkedIn, what's a lead? Well, that may not be necessarily clear to you. Is it the connections you make? Is it the conversations that you're having? Do you consider a lead when somebody actually books a call, or are you giving something away on LinkedIn, et cetera, right? So, and that's true for everything. Do you consider somebody a lead when they opt into your webinar, or do you consider somebody a lead when they book a call on the back of the webinar? So just prioritizing this helps you to get a clear definition of what you consider as a lead in and of itself. And that clarity makes you realize I need more of those. Why? Because if you know how to sell something to your leads, then without changing your sales approach, without changing the offer, without changing the fulfillment, without changing your customer support, without changing the financials, if you just get more leads, if you get twice as many leads as you were getting before, you'll have what? Twice as many sales, twice as much revenue. And this is why, it's so easy to get confused as a business owner because you think, I need to fix my sales and I need to fix this and I need to fix this. And what you really need to do is identify what is a lead for you, how many did you get today, and what are you going to do tomorrow to get a little bit more? Not what are you going to do tomorrow to try and double it, because that's when you start what? Going into shiny object, right? You're like, oh, I need to throw this out the window and I need to try a whole new system, because how do you just get a little bit more? If you got 10 leads today, how can you get 12 tomorrow? Don't break everything. Don't shut everything down and restart something else. Just figure out with what you have now, how can you get a little bit more? Now, in my business and the businesses that I work with, I like to help them install a book funnel or a low ticket funnel. Book funnels preferred. You write a book, right? This is how we do our business. We write a book, we put it in a funnel, and for us, we consider a lead somebody who purchases the book. So I'll give you some examples of numbers in a second, but for us, we're asking how many new book customers did we get yesterday, right? We're doing our morning kind of analysis. And then at the end of the day, how many did I get today? And what can we do tomorrow to get a little bit more? So if I sold 50 today, how can we get 55 tomorrow? Do we need to add a new traffic channel? Do we need to mail the list of people who are on our email list but haven't bought it yet? Do we need to, etc.? The reason we focus on leads is this simple. Nothing else matters until a lead comes in. Everything else in our business is downstream. Everything. Fulfillment doesn't matter if nobody's buying. Nobody's buying if they don't become a lead, and etc. Right? So it's all, that's why we start with a lead, and it's one of the areas in your business that you can raise the dial up on, and everything else is affected. And so that's why we do that. Now, the one thing that I would say is you're going to need way more leads and exposure than you think, right? And this is a reality that you have to understand and learn as a business owner. I don't care if you're using organic or whatever. Whenever somebody comes to, or paid ads, it doesn't matter the model. Somebody comes to me and says, hey, I talked to 10 people last week. How come I'm not rich? And I'll tell you why you're not rich. So here's an example from my business, one of my businesses. For us to get 20 clients a month, which is sort of our average, for us to get 20 clients a month, we have to sell about 2,000 books. Okay? That's on average. It all fluctuates month to month, but I'll just give you some simple number average. 20 clients a month, 2,000 new books. In order to sell, so first off, look at that disparity, right? 2,000 book buyers turn into 20 clients. That's a very small percentage of our what? Leads will actually turn into something. And that's normal. These are actually really good numbers, right? For the industry as a general sort of, if you're looking at across the spectrum of the industry. A general average, that's what I was looking for. To get 2,000 books sold, we have to run ads, and those ads have to be shown to 2 million people. Now, is it actually 2 million people? Well, it depends. How accurate is the traffic platform that's reporting? And then what is actually an impression? Sometimes we show an ad more than once to people, et cetera, but it's not 2 million impressions. Let's just say 2 million people, just to keep it all simple. We have to get our message out in front of 2 million people. 2 million people have to see our stuff every month just to get 20 clients. Now, these numbers may be very different than what you're doing. Maybe you only have to send out 100 LinkedIn outreach messages to get a client. Okay, so don't base your system off of our system or our numbers, unless you're using our numbers or our system specifically. But ask yourself, what is your required reach to get a lead, right? So if it does take 100 LinkedIn messages to get one lead, and you need 10 leads to get a client, well then you can, if you're prioritizing the focus of how many new leads am I getting every day, you can what? You can adjust your efforts. You can say, well, I was only sending 100 a week. Now I need to send whatever. Or maybe I need to add another platform because LinkedIn has limitations on how many I can, etc. Does that make sense? So we're not blowing anything up. We're not shutting anything down. We're not ruining anything. We're simply looking at what is working, what are we doing, and then we're looking for our deficiencies, and then we're either plugging those holes, improving it, or getting rid of stuff. Sometimes you may say, hey, for the past 2.5 weeks, we tried this to get new leads and it didn't work, but gosh dang it, it sure did take up a lot of time. So what are you going to do? Well, I'm done doing that. Just shut that off. It's not worth anybody's time. And that's how you can run a very lean, profitable business. Okay, last thing to consider on this point of doubling sales in 6 months, and our number one thing that we're going to do is just focus on daily new leads, is to remember that there are 3 primary ways to get leads. One is to manually get leads. So that's manually getting yourself in front of strangers. That's something that I'm doing right now as I create this episode. This is manual effort for me to create this. Then it will be manual effort from my team to post this to the YouTubes and Facebook and LinkedIn and etc. And some of the people who are listening to this will turn into book buyers, which for us is our leads, those are our customers. Another way to do it is you attract free leads via an opt-in or a VSL, right? So that would be like setting up some kind of traffic system, whether you're using, say for example, Facebook groups, or you can run traffic as well. Like this doesn't mean you're not using paid traffic, but this would be you're giving away something in exchange for something for free, right? So they give you an email, you give them something for free. That's a way to generate leads. I don't prefer that method because of the third method, which is what we do, which is to pay for customers. I prefer to pay for customers simply because we know for us that people who buy a book or people who buy a low ticket who buy a low ticket offer, customers, they convert 16 times better than people who opt in for free stuff. So we have simply improved the quality of our leads so that we don't have to get as many of them to grow our big and successful business and blah, 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 all that kind of stuff. So that is one other note I wanted to make. Front end focus, prioritization of your daily lead count over 6 months without even really trying, just prioritizing it and focusing it and letting it sort of nibble at the back of your mind and trying to figure out ways to improve it without blowing things up will, at the end of 6 months, double your business. You don't have to do any of the other two things I'm about to share with you. That in and of itself will double your business. Now, number two, if you want to double your business, we're assuming that you're getting leads coming into your business and you're working every day to improve those. If you are happy with your current lead flow, then one of the things you can do to double your business is to simply increase your nurturing of those leads. Right? This isn't rocket science, okay? But as a business owner, sometimes we forget. If you have leads coming into your world, if you have book customers that are buying your book, if you have people opting into your VSL, if you have people who are connecting with you on LinkedIn and etc., people opting into your funnel to book a call and they've got on your Calendly link and all that, then simply increasing your nurturing of those human beings, everybody on the email list, every customer, every phone call is a human being, will double your business in the next 6 months. So let me give you some ideas. Number one is manual follow-up. Oh, and actually I should say before I give you any of these ideas, I've been doing this business for 15 years. I've never seen anyone maximize their nurture ability. I have seen people maximize their front-end lead flow. Like I've seen some people, they're spending $30,000, $40,000 a day in ads. That they're penetrating the market so deep they really can't do any more. I've not seen a single company in the world who has maximized their nurture of the people they bring into their business. I include myself in that. There's so many more things we could be doing for nurturing. Okay, so if you are wondering, do I nurture enough? The answer is no. I don't even have to look at your stuff. I already know you don't nurture the people who are coming into your business already. And how do I know that? Because of your back-end conversion rates. Or in other words, because not everybody who comes into your world is even interested in buying from you. Not everybody who comes into your world knows what you do. Like if you were to honestly survey your email list or survey your audience and ask them, what is it that I do? I think you would be surprised that a lot of people would be like, I have no idea. And that's nothing wrong with you. When I say that I've never seen a company who nurtures enough, that's a comment on the reality of today's market. Somebody joins your email list, guess what? They're on 15 other email lists too. They're getting emails every single day from those other 15 people. So this idea that just because they come into your world, you are the only one they're thinking about, that's just not true. So you are definitely not nurturing more than the combined nurturing of all your competitors. If they're on 15 other email lists and those other email lists are sending them a message every single day, that's 15 other nurture points against your one. So just some things to think about, right? We're always up against the nurture issue. So if you're ever thinking, can I improve it? The answer is yes. So let me give you some ideas on how to do that. Number one is looking at your manual follow-up, okay? We are living in a digital age, and we are living in a world where if you actually talk to people, they are like, what? What's going on? You're an actual human being. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. So much of internet marketing is obsessed with automation, don't talk to people, automation. If you have any opportunity in your business to touch point as a human being in a manual, custom way, you will see a financial reward for that. Now, if you run a team and you're wondering whose role it is to follow up, that is a sales role, okay? Very important to understand. Your marketing team, when it comes to manual follow-ups, that's not their job, it's a sales job. However, it should be a low-level sales job, okay? Don't have your closers doing too much follow-up. You really want to have lower-level setters, etc., doing that kind of thing. In order to do that, you need to have a CRM. So if you are running sales, and it doesn't matter what size your organization is right now, if it's just you, I recommend getting involved and getting used to a CRM, okay? Learn how to habitualize tracking all the people you have worked so hard to bring into your business. You worked hard to bring them in. I don't care what you did. Webinar, VSL, book funnel, whatever. You worked hard to bring someone in your business. You better keep track of who these people are. Otherwise, you've wasted more than you are likely able to even measure. Now, when you keep that CRM, I challenge you to do this. First off, if you don't have a follow-up process at all, if you're a one-call close gang, just start following up and you will double your sales. The old axiom of the money is in the follow-up, that is so true. That is so true. I would say if you are doing really well with a single call close, add a follow-up system, that in and of itself will double your sales. I've rarely seen a sales team that didn't have a follow-up and then added a follow-up. I don't think I've ever seen that executed where it didn't at least double. Okay, so you have your CRM, you have a follow-up system. Now I challenge you to double two things in that follow-up. Double the length that you're willing to follow up for, and then double the frequency at which you follow up. So what do we mean by length and frequency? Length is how long of a time are you going to follow up with someone? Is it 30 days? Okay, well then you should do 60 now. And just try that and see what happens. If it was, we send one follow-up every 30 days, here's your frequency. If you send one follow-up every 30 days, send 2 follow-ups every 30 days. And it still won't be enough. Okay, even because I'm saying this and I've had thousands of conversations with thousands of business owners, and I can already hear the collective cringe. Oh, I don't want to inconvenience people. I don't want to follow. You don't have to be a jerk about following up, right? You don't have to do these like internet marketing, trying to guilt trip, gaslight people type of follow-ups. You can just be a nice human being and say, hey, I was wondering, have you been able to make a decision about the thing we talked about a month ago? Hey, it's me again. I know I'm being annoying, but I'm just here whenever you want, you can be yourself in following up, but that in and of itself is a way to nurture people. How can we even call that nurture? How can we use that word nurture? Because if what you offer helps someone, you being there to support them in their decision-making process and realizing that not everybody can make a decision on the spot is nurturing. The question that people smarter than me have asked, and I wish I could quote it directly, but it's, I give this person credit, whoever said it first when I first heard it, is how long do you support a small child to learn to walk? And you say, until they learn to walk, right? You don't just give up after, oh, you didn't do it, okay, you're never going to do it. The same is true with manual follow-up on sales. If somebody took the time out of their day to book a call or have a conversation, there's something there, right? And they may not even know it themselves because they maybe don't know how to communicate it. Maybe they don't know their own process by which they buy things. Everybody buys things differently, right? There is no such thing as everybody buys the same way. Some people need certain things. Some people need trust. Some people need to see ROI. Some people need to feel good and they don't know what that feeling even is, and et cetera, et cetera. So just the act of showing up, being present, that will double your sales. Now, the thing is, you can do this right now. And I would challenge you to do this right now. So Dan Meredith has a really fun group. It's called Coffee with Dan. He doesn't know me from Adam, but I've been following him for a long, long time. Hilarious guy. Dan Meredith has a Facebook group. Y'all should go join it. He says, the other day he posted, what would you do to make $10,000 in like 48 hours, right? And he just wanted to get everybody in the group to add their kind of recommendations. And I looked through that post, and I would say 80% or more of the people's recommendations was, I would go contact everybody who's ever talked to me about my services or offers. In other words, they'd go follow up, right? And that makes sense. If you need emergency money, what are you going to do? You're going to go try and convince a stranger? No, you're going to go talk to people who you've already talked to. Now, here's my question. Why aren't you already doing that? Why don't you treat every weekend like you need the emergency $10,000, right? And follow up with people. You have likely talked to a lot of people. You've likely exposed your stuff to a lot of people. And you're busy trying to run a business, and they're busy trying to do their thing. And like all human relationships, it's not convenient, but if you're the one who kind of starts the conversation, right? Like reigniting old friendships. Okay, I guess I'm going to be the person who goes, it works. It just works. It's how human beings operate. So that's the first way that you can increase your nurturing. Another way to increase nurturing is using content, okay? So just like this podcast. Now, it's important to understand something else about people, which is they need to be convinced, okay? There is no magic one-word headline that instantly convinces people of everything that you can do for them. You have to understand, people have options. They're distracted. They're doing other stuff. Half the time, people are consuming your stuff and they don't even get it. There's going to be people who listen to this podcast and they're going to come away and they're like, I don't get anything he talked about. I don't get it. So what content does, and here's what would be dangerous, is if I took this podcast and turned it into a webinar and ran this webinar and ran a bunch of traffic and that was the only content that I shared with people, what do you think would happen? Well, there'd be a huge portion of them who are just like, I didn't even get what that guy was talking about. There'd be another portion who said, I get it, but I don't think it's right for me. There'd be another portion who said, he said 70% of the right things, but I still need that 30%, and etc. And that's off of one piece of content. So what we find is that content answers questions, but sometimes it creates questions. It creates people being, maybe they get a little bit more confused. Maybe they have more questions about what they need. And so one way to increase your nurture is to produce more content. I'll give you some examples here. So sometimes the production of content is simply saying the same thing over and over again until people get it, right? What am I always talking about on these podcasts? Book funnels. Why? Well, I want you to buy book funnel stuff from me. What am I always talking about? Offers. Why? Well, because I help people get offers. And sometimes you just have to hear something over and over and over and over again until you get it, until it clicks for you. Be honest with yourself. How many times has that happened to you in your life? Happens to me all the time. I wake up one day and, I was like, oh my gosh, what that guy was telling me 10 years ago, I didn't get it until I heard it this morning and somebody put it in this special way. That's a very normal human thing. So part of content is just answering the same thing over and over and over again. Sometimes answering it in new ways or saying it in new ways. I can talk about offers this way. I can talk about a book funnel this way. I can say, here's a book funnel for increasing your leads. Here's a book funnel for increasing your, loyalty. Here's a book funnel as a device for, convincing people, etc. Okay. So the point here about saying it over and over again is to don't overestimate how distracted human beings are. You could say thick, and I would include myself in that group of thick human beings, but I think the thickness just comes from they're distracted. They got other stuff going on. They got kids, they got spouses. Yeah, business makes up a lot of their life, but it's not everything. And then even within business, there's all these other distractions. So part of content is just repeating yourself. Part of content is answering questions. There's no way you can answer every question somebody has in a single podcast episode, a single webinar, a single book, a single anything. So however you bring people into your world, they're going to have more questions. The more questions you answer, what happen? What's going to happen in their mind? They're going to trust you more. If they trust you more, what are they going to do? They're going to prioritize you as a choice for when they're ready to advance whatever it is they're trying to advance, when they're ready to buy whatever it is they're trying to buy. They will put you as a preferred vendor among the 15 other people who keep emailing them every day with hardcore offers. They're going to look to you and say, well, you know what? This person answered a lot of my questions. I bet they'll help me answer more of them. So an easy way to make a ton of content is ask your audience, however you gather that audience, whether it's email list or organic, what do you guys want to know? And when they say, this is what I want to know, don't ignore it. Make something to answer that and then give it to them. And that will convince them because you answered exactly what they were looking for. Okay, another part of content is just showing them that you know what you're talking about. Sometimes people just want to know that you are the real deal. And that look, all you have to do is look at your own content performance numbers to know that most people don't consume everything. I make very long podcast episodes because I'm very long-winded and I've tried multiple times to make like 10-minute episodes. I can't do it. I know most people aren't going to consume the entire episode, but I make them anyways. Why? Because I just want people to know, and this will happen, that I know stuff. Some people will consume a quarter of it and they'll say, you know what, I'm going to go get the coaching program because clearly this person knows what they're talking about. Or, you know what, this person knows what they're talking about. It talks a lot about funnels. Okay, I trust that they are going to take that knowledge that I'm not going to sit and listen to all day because I don't have time for it to go help me in the done for you offer. Just the presence of smart content equals people viewing you as somebody who knows what they're talking about. Same with, look, and again, it doesn't have to be podcasts. You can do this via email. You can do this whatever is comfortable for you. If you want to just write more books, that's what I like to do as well, right? Write as many books as I can. And the same thing happens. Another part of content is helping people to get results in advance, right? So if you make a piece of content and somebody actions that content and then they do something that they're happy about, who do you think they're going to choose when it comes time for them to get more help, when it comes time for them to get their done for you, their coaching, their whatever, in that sea of 15 other people that they're on the same email list of? They're going to go for the person who got them a result already. That's why I like books so much. Because if you write a good book, somebody should get some decent results in advance, and that sets up a very awesome relationship. We've talked about this recently in some other podcasts. Okay, so the point of me saying what's a part of content is to show you that you could make 10 pieces of content a day, and it still wouldn't cover all the potentials that content has. Now, I don't want you to think that I've become a Gary Vaynerchuk disciple. You can see I don't actually make a ton of content, but I make more than I used to, right? And when I say used to, I mean over the years and years and years, okay? So the challenge is, remember, let's put this all in context here, because I don't want you to go shiny object and think, oh no, another thing I have to do. We're trying to double our business over 6 months. And what I'm suggesting is that if you double your nurture of the leads you already have over the next six months, that will turn into a doubling of revenue. So for example, if you're currently only sending out 1 email a week, send out 2 emails a week. And over 6 months, that nurturing will compile and you'll get better at it. You'll get some more feedback. And at the end of 6 months, the result of that doubling will, of course, be twice as better nurtured leads. If leads are twice better nurtured, they'll likely book a call at a rate of 2x. If they're booking a call at a rate of 2x and you don't change anything major about your sales process, what do you think is going to happen? You'll 2x your sales. So part 1 of this is we look at prioritizing the number of people coming into our business. The second part of this is that we prioritize the ability to turn more of those people into potential sales, aka we nurture them. And then the third part, which we'll talk about after this one, is then making sure that the result of those sales calls is a much bigger revenue payout. But before we get there, I just want to make sure that you know I'm not telling you to go create 50 pieces of content per day. I don't actually think that's sustainable, right? I don't think that anyone listening to me here has the budget that someone like Gary Vaynerchuk or Grant Cardone has to be able to pump out the content at the level that they do. However, there are very inexpensive ways to get content repurposed. So maybe you don't need to produce anything more. You just need to add someone on your team, a very inexpensive virtual assistant, to turn 1 piece of content into 10. Easy, go Google it. How to turn 1 piece of content into 20 pieces of content, right? Something like that. Or if you're like me and you just like to talk, you can just add more stuff, okay? But the idea here is that you're doing it in a measured way. And ultimately, for you to realize you are not reaching your people like you think you are, okay? Not because you're bad, but because of the reality of the lives of the people you're trying to reach, right? You can't overdo this, is basically the point. All right, so the third sort of way to increase your nurturing is called presence-based nurturing. An easy way to think about this is just adding more retargeting of your offer. Okay, so for example, like I said earlier, if you interviewed your email list and said, hey, what do you know about all of the things I have to offer? Most of them are going to say, I have no idea. I've been too afraid to book a call, or I have no idea. I got on a call. I didn't really understand it. Most people don't know what it is that you offer. So just retargeting those people, say, for example, if you have a book funnel, you can retarget them with, did you know that I offer this as well? All the people who hit your book page, which will end up being a big portion of the people who buy your book, et cetera, et cetera. We don't have time to go into that, but thinking of it in terms of everybody who comes into your world, all the leads who come into your world, making sure that they're aware and seeing your offer. I promise you, again, I've seen behind the scenes of thousands of businesses, nobody is doing this very well. The amount of people who are on an email list who don't even know why they're on the email list, the number of people who are on an email list and they don't even know what it is that the person offers or how exactly it is that they help them, the people who show up to say, for example, sales calls, and like, I don't even know why I'm on this sales call. This is undervalued, underrated, and underexecuted in every single business. Every single business. Another thing, for example, presence-based nurturing is taking stuff that has worked and then just sending it again. This is what's so wild to me in a lot of internet marketing businesses. Let me give you an example of something that people don't do and they should. If you have a high-performing email, send it again. And I don't just mean like send it to the email list 30 days later. I mean, if you think about a really good email gets about 30% open rates, right? I mean, 70% of the leads that you brought into your business didn't even see it. Your high-performing email, this thing that has made you money, 70% of the people who came into your world didn't even see it, didn't even open it, much less the people who, say, for example, the reason the email is high-performing is because of the page that was linked to from the email. So, for example, we know like a 4 or 5% click-through rate. You're talking about most people haven't even seen your best performing stuff. Think about webinars. The number of people who sign up versus the number of people who watch versus the number of people who watch the whole thing. So this idea of presence-based nurture is about, if you have stuff that's working, figuring out ways and thinking of ways to get people to consume more of it. Because if you know that, say, for example, a webinar converts at X, and you know that half the people drop off because of whatever reason, Can you get the same message from your webinar? Sure, you can remail the webinar. That works. But can you take the main points from your webinar and send them as emails, send them as mini podcasts? And don't be afraid to be repetitive, because you know these selling points work, but for whatever reason, in whatever, something was said in the middle of the webinar, or the webinar was too long for somebody to sit down for an hour and a half, or etc. So just repeating, getting the same message into the leads that you have, and not being afraid to do so, and realizing that the people who actually need help will appreciate it. And they'll appreciate it because people who need help tend to be pretty busy and tend to pretty easily not consume everything that you're sending, right? They're just frantically looking for a solution. Okay, so not being afraid to do that. Here's another thing that you can do in presence-based nurture is just constantly mentioning your offer. I do it all the time. It's in every single email we send, and it's in every single episode of this show that we do, right? It's in all my books. I say, hey, if you want us to help you, go to peacefulprofits.com/call. If you want to buy our book, go to peacefulprofits.com. It's not intrusive. It's not overly aggressive. And I know that you don't have my website URLs memorized. Okay. I know that you're here to consume this podcast so that you can get something. You're not here to consume this podcast for me. You're here for you. So it would be silly of me to assume that you're just waiting to buy something from me with, hands rubbing together. I can't wait to buy something. That's very rare. It's a very small portion of any audience is like that. So constantly reminding you of what I can sell and what I can do for you is part of an improved presence-based nurture process. And I would recommend that you deploy it as well. Don't be afraid to plug your stuff. It's not overly aggressive. It's not annoying. And one of the things that I like to do is I like to try and say it in new ways. If you go to our YouTube channel, you'll find that in a lot of the YouTube descriptions, when I'm linking to links, I'll just try different, for example, the One Book Millions method, right? I can say, this book will show you how to make 7 figures with a book, how to use a book to grow your business 7 figures, right? That's one way to say it. I can also say, and that's the line I use, and then I link to the book. I can also say, and I'm sure I have by the time this recording gets out, say something like, this book, or say this marketing method helps me retain 60% profit margins. Click to find out more, right? There's so many different ways that you can talk about your stuff. And by doing so, it will settle on the people who needed to hear that specific thing in order for them to grasp why it is that you are offering the thing that you're offering. Okay, so don't be afraid to do that. Don't be afraid to increase your presence-based nurture. Okay, so that's it. So let's do a really quick recap. We're already 40 minutes in. So we're trying to double our revenue in 6 months. First thing we're going to do is we're going to focus on daily new leads. Okay, it's the first and last thing we're going to focus on. How many did I get? How can I get more tomorrow? That in and of itself will double our revenue. Number 2, which also in and of itself would double revenue if we change nothing else, is we need to take those people who are coming into our business as leads and nurture them way better. They have not gotten the message. That period, full stop. They have not gotten the message. They do not know how awesome you are. They do not know all the things you can help them do. They don't even know what your offers are. They don't know how to get in contact with you if they want your offers. So increasing nurture content, whether you increase the volume or you just increase, because remember, we can do following up, so manually following up, and that works because a manual follow-up turns into a conversation. So what's more nurturing in terms of content than to have an actual conversation with someone? Then we can also just do content-based nurturing. So that's just producing more content or getting that content out in front of people more. And then we can do presence-based nurturing, which is just getting our stuff that we really want them to know about more evident, more common, the word is omnipresence, which is to say everywhere they go in your world, they are made aware and reminded of what it is you do, how you do it, etc. Okay, so that's the 2 ways that we are going to double sales. And anytime that we do either of those, that should give us a doubling. And then, unless of course we're like max penetration of a market and, we're doing like $150 million a year and a very small market and all that kind of good stuff. But for most businesses that are listening to this podcast, that will double. And the last thing, this is the most simple thing and most overlooked thing, and it is just increase your prices. It's so underrated and so controlled by fear. We have somehow, in every other aspect of our business, we feel quite confident in knowing that we don't know the answer, right? We say, you know what? I probably could learn a different way to grow, like get more clients or get better clients. You know what? I probably could use some help writing a book. I probably could in almost every other aspect of our business, except when it comes to raising a price. All of a sudden, when it comes to raising a price, our brain has convinced us that we are a double Nobel laureate, PhD from Harvard, economics professor at MIT, and we tell ourselves the market won't be able to handle. My prospects can't handle an increase in price. All of a sudden, we're professional economists when it comes to this one thing. And that's because fear is dang convincing. Fear is very good at convincing you of something which is kind of ridiculous. Because you aren't, I'm assuming, you aren't a double Nobel laureate, PhD from Harvard, economics professor at MIT. You are somebody who doesn't know the market as much as you would like to think you do in that moment of fear. You can only know if you experiment, and you can only truly experiment if you have a big enough sample size. So you can't make the conclusion based off of 2 or 3 sales calls. Right? You have to make the conclusion off of a big, broad range of sales calls. So, with all of that in mind, here is the most simple process in the world to double your revenue. Will not get more simple than this. And if this is something that is too difficult for you to handle, then it's worth examining why. Asking yourself why. Get a journal. Why am I so against this? And getting clear on why that is. Okay, and then being able to draw conclusions from that, right? If you draw a conclusion and say, I'm never going to double my price because that's my ethical, et cetera, cool, that's fine. Accept it and realize that price increase is never going to be a method you can use. And like all management practices and trying to become more efficient, now, you just don't have to deal with it anymore. Just get it off your plate. Price increase is not something I'm going to do. For everybody else, it's probably going to end up journaling, thinking about it. Well, it's because I'm afraid. Okay, what are you afraid of? I'm afraid they'll reject me. Okay, well, why? And you can work through that as well and then eventually get to the ability to raise your price. But here's the most simple plan in the world. Ready? All you have to do is raise your prices by 25% every 6 weeks. And at the end of 6 months, you will have raised your prices so that they'll be doubled what they are today. And if you do it every 6 weeks, raise your price a little bit, it's not such a big shocker to the system, right? If you're selling for something for $1,000 and you decide to start selling it for $1,250, that's not such a shock to the system that you can't deal with it anymore, right? So that is a nice, slow way over 6 months to double your prices. And what did I say at the beginning of this audio? I said, if you already know how to create a transaction, meaning you know how to go get leads, turn those leads into a sale, fulfill on the sale, then all of these methods will be very, very helpful to you. This one can double your revenue very likely, not a guarantee, but very likely, without doubling anything else or even increasing anything else. So the cost of your leads will very likely stay the same, which isn't necessarily true if you try to increase your leads, right? So if we go back to number 1, for you to go from 50 book sales a day to 100 book sales a day, it might get more expensive. You might be paying a little bit more on your cost per book sale. So it's not true that that won't increase. The second one, in nurture content, is probably going to take more of your time, or you may need to hire someone. So that's going to increase a little bit costs. So that'll eat a little bit into your profit. But increasing price doesn't, in most cases, doesn't drastically reduce conversion rates, especially if you do it slowly like this. It doesn't drastically turn people off from you and they say you're the worst person ever. So your nurturing kind of components are fine. And it has no effect on your leads whatsoever, meaning your ability to bring leads into your business. So there you have it. The world's most simple way to double your revenue. And in most cases, that would include a doubling of profit if all you did was double your prices. And that's the most simple process I know of in the whole world. If you need to justify the process or justify the prices, cool. Again, that's why you have to journal. Why am I so hesitant to increase my prices? Figure out why and then fix it. So go into the unknown, get the clarity, take action on what needs to be fixed, and it's fixed. And it's that simple. Okay. That's it, my friends. So today's episode was all about doubling your revenue in 6 months. Focus on your daily new leads. Increase your nurturing. Never seen anybody who has maximized that ever in my entire life and 15 years of doing business. And increase your prices. It's that simple. Doesn't need to be more complex than that. If you're yearning for something more complex, go get a hobby. Keep your business simple. If it's simple and easy and straightforward, it'll actually work, okay? If you would like, however, and here we go, here's me reminding you I'm doing some of my presence-based nurturing. If you would like us to help you get more and better leads, which will double everything in your business, and in most cases we can triple, quadruple. If you want a better lead system, peacefulprofits.com/call, what we can do is we can help to show you how we use low-ticket funnels to offset advertising. So our leads do end up costing us nothing in most cases, but they are customers rather than freebie seekers. And so we have much better customers who are pre-nurtured because they've consumed something they've purchased. So whether they consumed a book or whether they consumed a mini course. And as you can see from what we talked about today, that in and of itself, remember, any one of these three things can double a business. That in and of itself can double your business just by letting us help you do that. Okay, and for those who just want to increase their prices, but they need help coming up with better offers or adjusting their offers to feel like they can increase those profits, we can do that as well. So peacefulprofits.com/call. If you'd like the book on how we use books and book funnels to increase our leads to many hundreds per day at net zero cost to us, go to peacefulprofits.com and you'll be able to buy that book. Otherwise, I will see you in the next episode, my friend, and I hope you have a wonderful day.